welcome to the 5th edition of Retroid Review here on Super Retroid. Now, if you've looked at the title of this video, you'll know what the subject matter is going to be. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about some other games. And these are all games that have emotionally got to me. They've made me cry, they've made me happy, they've made me jump for joy, they've made me ecstatic, they've made me want to kill myself. But we'll get to the subject in due time. But until then, there's only 4 sets of games that have ever really got to me, that have ever really made me feel strongly attached to them. There are others where I feel attached. The Zelda franchise, you always feel a sense of achievement when you complete those and a sense of belonging to the characters, but I don't think it ever really grabs at your heartstrings. But that's just me. So in reverse order, at number 4, we have the Mass Effect trilogy. I think number 2, that one, is probably the better game. I think number 1 has the better RPG mechanics and is a little bit more adult, I think. But number 3, which, by the way, the ending caused controversy, but I personally don't really mind it. It's about the story, and the journey is amazing. So the bit at the end is a bit weak, but I'm not that fussed with it, to be honest. But anyway, in this, it tries to tie up all the loose ends that have happened throughout the previous 2 games. And there are certain sections which do it so well. If you're playing as you can play as a good shepherd or a bad shepherd. If you play as the bad character, there is a certain point in the game where you have to decide whether you want to stab your friend in the back. And because I was playing as bad shepherd, I decided to do this and kill him off. But I felt so much regret in doing so. This is a character I'd known for a good 50 hours worth of gameplay, and here I was, ready to kill him, and I just thought, I don't know if I can physically do this. I want to be bad shepherd and get the bad rating or whatever, but I felt pretty bad for doing it. And then there's another section at the end of the game where you get to talk to all the characters that are still alive, because some of them can be killed off. And there's one, you can fall in love with 3 or 4 different characters, and you get to talk to them, and it just gets at you. It's just like you're saying goodbye. You know that you're off to go and kill yourself, basically. So it's tough. It's tough games to get through, but they're so spectacularly done, and I can't wait to play the next trilogy that they make of this universe. It's not going to be the same story. I hope it's based after. I don't know how they could go before. Well, I suppose they could only go before because people make different choices. But anyway, that's off topic. At number 3, I haven't got a box for this game because it's download only, I think. I don't know if there is a proper box copy. And it's called To the Moon. Put it into Google. I'm not sure what the company who make it's called, but put it into Google and it will come up. And I'd heard about this game and read reviews, and I thought, did I press... Shit. Sorry, I thought I didn't press record. I did. So I read reviews and thought, I have to play it. So I downloaded it, and I've lost my train of thought. I downloaded it, and basically what it is you play as 2 people. You play as a man and a woman, and basically what they do, their job, is to give people their last wishes. And they come in when you're on your deathbed, to plug you into this machine, and it can change certain parts of your life. So say you always wanted to be a doctor, it can make that happen for you. It can change certain memories so that you become a doctor, and that's what they do. But the way it works is that it works in reverse. So you start with the most recent memory, and you work your way back. And we find out stuff about certain characters, but we don't know the reasons why these things have happened. And then as you go back, you do find out why. And then right at the end, it all massive crescendo, and it's like... It's a bit emotional, and you're attached to these characters. It's not very long. I played it through in an afternoon quite happily, but you're hooked, and you'll want to play it again because the story is just incredible. They are working on a sequel. I don't think the story's linked, but if they do the magic they did in this, then it's going to be incredible. Number 2 is the Shenmue series on the Dreamcast. You can also get it for the original Xbox. We'll get Shenmue 2 for the original Xbox. I've never played that version, but I'm sure it's fine. And, these games have never been finished. There needs to be at least a number 3. I think there was supposed to be 7 games. that one is number 1, and then this one is basically parts 2, 3, and 4. So there should be 5, 6, and 7 on the end here, but there isn't because they run out of money. At the time, they were the most expensive. Well, this was the most expensive game ever made. Call of Duty, I think now, the last one holds the title for that, or maybe even Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm not sure, but it's absolute magic. And to be honest, not really a lot happens in it. You potter around a bit, you get a job, fight some people. That's about it. But it's such an experience. It's a bit in the same vein as something like Heavy Rain or something like that, where you don't really play a game, but it is incredible. Shenmue 2 is the one that really gets to me, though. Is that Shenmue 2? Yes. There is the last disc. It comes on 4 discs. The first 3 discs are the game, basically. The 4th disc, you land on this island, and basically you have to make your way to this house in the hills and find a tree. And it sounds stupid, and all you do is walk there. It's about 4 hours long, but that's it. There's no action, there's no fighting, it's just story, and it's incredible. You really realise who the characters are, what you're fighting for. It is emotionally so good. You have to play through the whole of the game to get to it, but it is so worth it. It's just brilliant. The first time I played it, I thought, really, this is it? And then once you've got through it, and you incredible. Anyway, enough getting gooey about other games. I'm going to talk about the subject now, and that is Mystic Quest on the Game Boy. And you may think that this has nothing in common with the other games. Well, visually it looks a lot like To the Moon, except in obviously black and white, or green and yellow, whatever the hell all the colours are. But this is the first game where I felt a genuine connection to the characters and really wanted to fight for them. So let's find out why. So, this is Mystic Quest, and to begin with we have to address the fact that it has a lot in common with Final Fantasy. It has a few of the characters, it's based in the same universe, and it comes from Square, so obviously it's going to have similarities. But where Final Fantasy is a turn-based role-playing game, this is real-time action. And that's something I prefer. It's definitely... I don't really get turn-based games. I'm not very strategic, to be honest. I'm more of a button masher. There are a few exceptions to the rule. I'm a big fan of Skies of Arcadia on the Dreamcast. In fact, that is probably in my top 10 games of all time. And that's very story-driven, and that game is brilliant. If you've never played Skies of Arcadia, you're missing out, because that game grabs you. It's always changing, the environments are always different, the characters are well written, it's bloody fantastic. But anyway, back to Mystic Quest. So yes, it has a lot in common with Final Fantasy. In fact, there are even chocobos on this, which is sort of like the Tauntaun of this world. And we get to that in due time, we'll get to that nearer the end of the game. But what really does it with me for this game is right from the start, you're thrown into a dungeon, you have to fight. And then the next scene we come to is just absolutely the saddest thing. You meet your friend who's just recently fallen from a fight, and I hate to say it, but he's gonna die. So straight away, your heartstrings are being tugged at. Your best friend, as you know it, is just been killed. And all you know is that you have to get out and avenge his death. It's just... I've never had... At the time, I'd never known anything like this. I'd never really been drawn into a story. Other games that I played at the time, I probably only had roughly 20 games when I got this one. So I hadn't had that much experience. But the games I played before, they were games. They were games for the sake of being games. You go through them, you try and get to the end, or, you know, because you wanted to, because you wanted to beat the game. Whereas with this, yes, you do want to beat the game because it's slightly difficult. It's not as difficult as other Final Fantasy-esque games. But you want to beat it because you want to find out what happens at the end. You want to save the world that you're living in. You want to save the girl. You want to win the day, and you want to be a hero. And it just does it so well. Now, we need to escape this dungeon, and then we'll get to the next story part. And it is fantastic. But before we do that, let's address the graphics. Now, I've got to say, for Game Boy, they're mightily impressive. Everything looks like... you can tell what it is. Your person looks like a person. I mean, this, you can tell, is a dungeon. You can tell you're in a castle. You can tell that that's a colorscape. You can tell that they're trees. You can tell that that's grass on the ground. You can tell that you're obviously on the edge of a mountain. And
it is just fantastic. I mean, Game Boy is not known for its graphics, but for me, I think this is up there. This has got to be up there in the top 10 of best original monochrome Game Boy graphics, surely. It's just brilliant. I love it. And then we can talk about the sound. The sound effects are all good, they all work. The music as well. We know that something is happening. We know that something bad is possibly going to happen. Excuse me. And it's just so atmospheric. And then the music just cuts out. And to be honest, it's a little bit scary. And then this horrible, deep, sort of scary, evil music cuts in. Now the two people you meet here are the two evil people in the game. One of them, the Dark Lord on the left there, he's the big bad. And then on the right you have his sort of wizard, if you like, his sorcerer. And they're not very nice, and they obviously want to kidnap a girl, take her to the top of the tree and control the mana flowing out of it, and basically destroy the world like all bad people tend to want to do. But meeting them straight away, right at the start of the game, you already have a goal. You already know who you're looking for, who you want to kill. You know, because this guy, he's about to try and kill you. Oh, excuse me, I don't know why I'm sneezing. But anyway, this Dark Lord, he basically wants you dead, and he chucks you off this waterfall. And then we can finally get to the start of the proper game. I mean, we've had this little, like, training session, if you like, with the monster in the castle. We've had a few... Well, that's the only fight we've had. We've met some characters. And then, what happens next is the start. And the music kicks in. And you feel like you're on an adventure. Okay, it's just awesome. I love this music. The way they've managed to get this music out of the Game Boy, I have no idea. But it is just brilliant. It's racing, it's pumping. You're in the mood for a fight now. You want to find out why you were chucked off that waterfall. Now, I just love it. This probably for me is the gateway game for me. Before I played this, I played a lot of stuff without really any story, but this really grabbed at my heartstrings. And this basically led me on to play games that I probably wouldn't have played, like The Legend of Zelda, which is heavily story driven. I don't think I'd ever have played a Final Fantasy game and enjoyed it. I don't think I would have played the newer Zelda games, especially Ocarina of Time, which is one of my favourite ever. And the story in that is just fantastic. There's twists, there's turns, and so is there in this game. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but later on there is so much stuff going on, and there's puzzles, and there's characters you meet, and characters that are going to die, and it's just wonderful. It's just a wonderful, wonderful game. And what really does it is that the story drags you in so much that you don't even realise that you're playing a Game Boy game. I think it's something that these early consoles can do really well. Because the graphics aren't great, they really have to ramp up the story. And this is before they had proper people, well not proper people, but like people specifically there to write the story. This was done by the game designers, so it's just wonderful. They really understood the world that they're in and the characters. Love it.
So, basically, this game is a watered-down version of Final Fantasy. But that's not to detract from it at all. Just because it's easier, it doesn't make it any less of a good game. But I just absolutely adore it, and I never heard of this when we got it. Never heard of it. We got it as a freebie when we were kids, and to be honest, when I first played it, I thought, oh, this is going to be awful. But this is up there. This is up there for me. This is one of my favourite games ever made. I just absolutely adore it. The story just absolutely gets to me. The start is brilliant. You're thrown straight in, you don't know what the hell's going on, and then the story kicks in. It just absolutely gets to me every time I play it. And as a kid, I played this all the time and kept starting it over again, and just love this game to bits. And when video games do it well and they get your emotional attachment, they're brilliant. I mean, films do it all the time. Films make me feel a little bit gooey. I like to use that word all the time. But I think games, when they really pull at your heartstrings, They top films in a way that they could never imagine. You've invested so much of your time into this and the characters. It's a bit like a soap opera, but better. You've invested so much time into it that you just feel so much for the characters. And yeah, this is nothing to look at, and this game has been surpassed in every way by a lot more, but it still holds a special place in my heart. And I'm sure there are games for you that do exactly the same. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time. We'll try and be a bit more macho.